Everyone heard it. We were standing in my sister's kitchen, coats still on, when my mother said it loud enough for the kids and my brother-in-law to stop talking. She didn't lower her voice. She didn't soften it. She smiled and said Christmas would be parents only now, that it was simpler, that I would understand. I nodded. I felt my face stay calm while something closed behind my ribs. No one corrected her. No one said my name. Someone laughed awkwardly. I picked up my bag, thanked her for telling me early, and walked out into the cold alone. I didn't cry in the car. I drove the familiar route back to my apartment with my hand steady on the wheel, like I was leaving a normal dinner. At the first red light I checked my phone. A group message had already started, my sister dropping a little Christmas tree emoji, my father replying, "Good call," my mother adding, "Thank you for understanding, honey." That was the part that stung. Not the decision. The assumption that my role was to be easy. I typed nothing. I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat and watched the light change. The next morning, I opened my work calendar and saw the same pattern as every year. Everyone else had blocked the entire week. I had been scheduled for the end-of-year close because I didn't have kids, and I was so flexible. My manager didn't mean harm. She meant efficiency. She said it the way my mother did, like convenience was a compliment. At work, my PTO request came back declined. HR note, priority given to employees with dependent care obligations. It was policy dressed as kindness. I saved the email too silently. Around noon, my sister called. She sounded relieved, almost cheerful. "So you're okay, right?" she asked. "Mom was worried you'd take it the wrong way." "What would be the right way?" I asked, keeping my voice even. A pause. Then she gave me the script. "It's just, the grandkids. They get overwhelmed. And honestly, you're always traveling anyway. You're not really here." I looked at the paint chip on my kitchen wall that I'd never gotten around to fixing. "I'm here," I said. "I showed up last night." She sighed, like I was making it harder than it needed to be. "Please don't start." That was the authority part. The quiet command. Don't start. Don't ask. Don't make them face what they'd done. It wasn't said with anger. It was said with ownership. After we hung up, I pulled the shoebox from my closet where I kept old cards. I wasn't sentimental. I was methodical. I found 3 Christmas cards I'd sent over the years. Each one had receipts printed on the back because I'd paid extra for tracking. I'd started doing that after my mother once claimed she never received a gift card I mailed. The tracking showed it had been delivered, signed by my father. That ended the argument without a fight. I opened my laptop and searched my email for Christmas and plans. There were threads of me asking what day worked best. Threads of me offering to bring food. Threads of me asking if anyone needed help with travel. Almost every reply was short. "We'll see." "Not sure yet." "We'll let you know." Then, suddenly, this year was decided. Parents only. By evening, I had the confirmation in writing. My mother had sent it to the family group. "This year we're keeping it small. Parents only. No hard feelings." No one questioned it. No one asked me privately if I was okay. They chose the easiest path and called it peace. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I opened a new tab and typed, "December cruise, balcony cabin." I didn't do it to punish them. I did it because I refused to sit in my apartment listening to other people's laughter through thin walls while my own family pretended I was optional. When the booking confirmation hit my inbox, it felt like a door clicking shut. Quiet. Final. And for the first time in days, my chest loosened. I didn't announce the cruise. I booked it quietly, like I did most things once I learned not to expect permission. The confirmation email sat unread for a day while I finished work, answered messages, and showed up where I was expected. No one asked about my plans. That was normal. I had learned years ago that attention only came when something was needed. The pattern wasn't new. I could trace it back to childhood if I wanted to. I was the one who waited in offices while everyone else was called first. The one who was told to be patient. The one who was praised for being easy. Easy meant overlooked. Easy meant adaptable. Easy meant disposable. When my parents divorced, I was the one who packed boxes. My sister cried and was comforted. I made lists. When money was tight, my college plans were delayed while hers were protected. It was framed as practicality. I understood even then that understanding was my assigned role. As an adult, it followed me everywhere. I hosted holidays when no one else wanted to. I drove hours because my schedule was more flexible. I listened to complaints about spouses and children and work, and no one asked how I was doing unless they needed something from me next. Christmas had just made it visible. Saying, parents only, wasn't about logistics. It was about narrowing the circle until I fell outside it. It was said casually because my exclusion had already been rehearsed for years. The first photo I posted from the ship wasn't intentional. I had stepped onto the deck at sunset, the water wide and calm, the sky soft with color. I took the picture because it was beautiful, not because I was trying to prove anything. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't add a caption. I just shared it. The messages started within minutes. My mother asked where I was. My sister asked if I was alone. My aunt sent a surprised emoji. A cousin wrote, "Wow, must be nice." No one asked why I hadn't mentioned it before. No one connected it to the kitchen conversation. They reacted like I had broken an unspoken rule. When I didn't reply, the tone shifted. "Are you mad? We didn't mean it like that. You could have told us." That one made me pause. I read it twice. "You could have told us." As if my silence was the problem, not the decision that caused it. I typed and erased several responses. Then I put the phone down and went back to the railing. The ocean didn't care who had chosen me or not. It moved the same either way. That night, I reviewed old messages again. Not to hurt myself, but to be sure. I needed to see it clearly. The missed invitations. The delayed replies. The way plans changed after I committed. It wasn't cruelty. It was convenience. And convenience had always chosen others over me. By the time the ship reached open water, I felt something settle. Not anger. Recognition. I wasn't losing my family. I was losing the illusion that I'd ever been central to it. I saw then how often I had volunteered myself for smaller space. I had laughed things off, minimized needs, accepted last place without protest. Not because I was weak, but because resistance felt pointless. On that deck, with my phone quiet, I understood that nothing would change unless I did. And change did not require announcements. It required clarity and decision to stop translating myself into something easier for others to accept. The boundary crossed itself a week later, quietly, the way it always did. I found out through a forwarded email I wasn't meant to see. My mother had written to my sister, copying an address she must have assumed was still inactive. It was mine. She wrote that I was being dramatic. That I had always been as sensitive. That it was probably better I wasn't around the kids much anyway, because they picked up on tension. She ended with, "She's chosen her lifestyle." I read it twice. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I needed to accept that it was written without hesitation. This wasn't anger. It was conclusion. I didn't reply. I didn't correct her. I forwarded it to my personal account and archived it. That was the moment something shifted. I stopped hoping for repair. I stopped rehearsing explanations in my head. I stopped waiting for someone to notice the imbalance and fix it for me. When I returned from the cruise, there was no confrontation waiting. There never was. Just normalcy. A group chat message about New Year's plans. A casual question from my father asking if I could help him set up a new phone. My sister sending a picture of the kids with matching pajamas. I answered politely. I didn't volunteer. I didn't offer to help. I responded when asked and nothing more. At work, something similar happened. A colleague forwarded me a scheduling email that listed me as backup for the holiday week again. It wasn't malicious. It was habitual. I replied to HR, attached previous approvals, and asked for clarification on the criteria being used. No emotion. Just policy. Their response took 2 days. When it came, it was careful. They acknowledged an oversight. They adjusted the schedule. No apology. Just correction. That was enough. Back at home, I started making small changes. I removed myself from the family group chat and created a new one with just my parents. I stopped hosting. I stopped reminding. I stopped initiating. Not out of spite, but because initiation without reciprocity is self-erasure. My sister noticed first. She called and asked if something was wrong. I said no. I told her I was busy. That answer unsettled her more than any accusation would have. You've changed, she said. I've been consistent, I replied. You're just seeing it now. There was a pause. She laughed softly, like she always did when uncomfortable. Don't be like that. I didn't respond. I let the silence sit until she filled it with small talk. Then I said I had to go. That night, I made a list. Not of grievances, but of patterns. Who contacted me only when something was needed? Who remembered my birthday? Who assumed my availability? Seeing it written down removed the last doubt. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a system I'd been maintaining for them. I didn't announce my withdrawal. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't valued. When invitations came last minute, I declined without explanation. When questions were framed as obligations, I asked for notice. When guilt appeared, I didn't absorb it. The effect was immediate and subtle. Fewer calls. Shorter messages. Mild irritation disguised as concern. They felt the absence before they understood the cause. For the first time, I wasn't asking to belong. I was deciding where I did. I didn't announce distance. I let it be measured. Weeks passed without plans that required me to rescue schedules or smooth moods. When my mother asked if I was coming by, I said I had other commitments. I didn't explain them. She said she missed me. I said I hoped she was well. The conversation ended without friction. Consequences arrived without spectacle. Family logistics adjusted. My sister stopped assuming I would babysit during emergencies. My father hired help for errands he once called me about. Nothing collapsed. That mattered. The world kept working without my unpaid labor, which told me everything I needed to know. At work, the clarification I'd requested became a precedent. HR circulated a neutral memo about scheduling equity. No names. No blame. My calendar filled differently. I took leave without apology. When a manager asked how I managed so much travel, I said I planned ahead. She nodded and wrote it down. The messages from the cruise photos slowed, then stopped. What replaced them was quiet curiosity. My aunt asked if I was okay. I said yes. A cousin invited me to coffee. I accepted and left early. I paid for my drink. I went home calm. The family group chat continued without me. I heard about it later, secondhand. There were disagreements about menus and timing. Someone forgot batteries. Someone felt unappreciated. I was no longer the buffer. The absence made patterns visible to others. Not all of them liked what they saw. Months later, my sister sent a long text that tried to sound reflective. She said she didn't realize how much I did. She said she hoped we could reset. I read it once. I replied with 3 sentences. I said I appreciated the note. I said I was focusing on my life. I said I wished her well. She didn't answer. I kept choosing clarity. I spent holidays where I was invited with intention. I built traditions that didn't require negotiation. I called my parents individually and ended calls when they drifted toward old expectations. Each time, it got easier. There was no final confrontation. No apology tour. No speech about boundaries. What changed was access. I controlled it quietly, consistently. People adjusted or they didn't. Either way, I slept better. One evening, near the end of winter, my mother called unexpectedly. She said Christmas had felt different. She said the house was louder, then strangely empty. She asked if I would come by soon. I said I would check my schedule. I meant it. The difference was choice. I learned that dignity doesn't announce itself. It rearranges rooms. It changes who waits. It replaces urgency with time. I didn't punish anyone. I stopped participating in a structure that required me to be smaller. When the next December arrived, I didn't post photos. I didn't need to. I was exactly where I intended to be, with people who noticed when I stood up. The peace wasn't dramatic. It was durable. And it was mine. I kept my life narrow and deliberate. I answered fewer questions. I asked fewer favors. I wrote plans in ink and followed them. When people tested the old boundaries, I declined once and moved on. The clarity saved energy. The quiet held. Nothing dramatic followed. Just days that fit, evenings that rested, and a future that no longer required permission. It felt ordinary in the best way, like balance restored without announcement, proof that stepping away can be an ending and a beginning at the same time. I moved forward quietly, certain and unafraid. At last, on purpose.